heavily tilted toward the special interests that many of us at the time said, you know, that's not going to move us on the path we need, which is toward clean, renewable, green energy. I think that we have to, break the lock of the special interests. That's why I've proposed a strategic energy fund, $50 billion to invest in clean, renewable energy. How would I do that? Take the tax subsidies that were given in the 2005 energy bill that Dick Cheney wrote, take them away from the gas and oil industry. They don't need our tax dollars to make these enormous profits. Let's put to work the money that we should get from the oil and gas industry in terms of windfall profits taxes so that we can begin to really put big dollars behind this shift toward clean, renewable, green energy. It's not going to happen by hoping for it, and these small, pieces of the puzzle that are starting to take shape around the country are not sufficient for us to break our addiction to foreign oil. So that 2005 energy bill was a big step backwards on the path to clean, renewable energy. That's why I voted against it. That's why I'm standing for the proposition, let's take away the giveaways that were given to gas and oil, put them to work on behalf of solar and wind and geothermal and biofuels and all the rest that we need for a new energy future.
Senator Edwards, you say you're against nuclear power, but a reality check. I talked to the folks at the MIT Energy Initiative, and they put it this way, that in 2050, the world's population is going to go from 6 billion to 9 billion, that CO2 is going to double, that you could build a nuclear power plant one per week and it wouldn't meet the world's needs. Something must be done, and it cannot be done just with wind or solar.
Well, yes, there are a lot of things that need to be done. If you were to double the number of nuclear power plants on the planet tomorrow, if that were possible, it would deal with about 1/7 of the greenhouse gas problem. This is not the answer. And it goes beyond wind and solar. We ought to be investing in other cellulose-based biofuels. There are a whole range of things that we ought to be investing in and focusing on. And I want to come back to something Senator Clinton said a minute ago. I agree with her and Senator Obama that it's very important to break this iron grip that the gas and oil industry has on our energy policy in this country. But I believe, Senator Clinton, you've raised more money from those people than any candidate, Democrat or Republican. And I think we have to be able to take those people on if we're going to actually change our policy. Now, what we need, in my judgment, is we need a cap on carbon emissions. That cap needs to come down every year. We need an 80% reduction in our carbon emissions by the year 2050. Below the cap, we ought to make the polluters pay. That money ought to be invested in all these clean, renewable sources of energy, wind, solar, cellulose-based biofuels. As I said earlier, I'm opposed to building more nuclear power plants, but I'd go another step that at least I haven't heard these two candidates talk about. They can answer for themselves. I believe we need a moratorium on the building of any more coal-fired power plants, unless and until we have the ability to capture and sequester the carbon underground. Because every time we build a new coal-fired power plant in America, when we don't have that technology attached to it, what happens is we're making a terrible situation worse. We're already the worst polluter on the planet. America needs to be leading by example.
Rebuttal time to both senators. 30 seconds, please. Senator Clinton.
Well, I have a comprehensive energy plan that I have put forth. It does not rely on nuclear power for all of the reasons that we've discussed. I have said we should not be siting any more coal-powered plants unless they can have the most modern clean technology, and I want big demonstration projects to figure out how we would capture and sequester carbon. But, this is going to take a massive effort. This should be our Apollo moonshot. This is where a president needs to come in and say, we can do this, America. We can make this change. We've got to do it by having a partnership with what needs to happen in Washington, but there's work for everybody to do, the states, communities, and individuals. That's what I want to summon the country to achieve, and I think we can make it.
Senator Obama.
Well, I think that one thing that we haven't talked as much about that we need to is reducing the consumption of energy. We are inefficient, and oftentimes during the presidential campaign, people have asked, what do we expect out of the American people in bringing about real change? This is an example of where ordinary citizens have to make a change. We are going to have to make our buildings more efficient. We are going to have to make our lighting more efficient. We are going to have to make our appliances more efficient. That is actually the low-hanging fruit if we're going to deal with climate change. That's the thing that we can do most rapidly, and there's no reason why, with the kind of presidential leadership that I intend to provide, that we can't make drastic cuts in the amount of energy that we consume without any drop in our standard of living.
Senator Edwards, in touching on immigration here, let's go to something that a lot of people have found to be a disconnect between the Democratic Party and majorities of voters in a lot of states. What would be the problem with English as an official language, as a bedrock requirement of citizenship?
Well, at least from my perspective, what we need to be doing is we need comprehensive immigration reform. We need to create a path for citizenship for 11 to 14 million people who are here who are undocumented. We need to give them a real chance to earn. I'm not for amnesty, but I am for being able to earn American citizenship.
Well, what about speaking the language?
But I'm about to get to that. I think that a couple of the requirements in order to be able to earn American citizenship are, first, if you came here illegally, we can't pretend it didn't happen. We are a country of laws, and we believe in enforcement of those laws. So we have to show recognition of having violated the law, and that means payment of a fine. Second, I think if you want to become an American citizen and earn American citizenship, you should learn to speak English. Now, I think that we should help with that process. We should help make sure that those who are living here and are not English speaking as their first language get a chance to actually learn to speak English. But I think that should be a requirement for becoming an American citizen.
Tim Russert.
Senator Clinton, one of your pollsters was quoted in the New Yorker magazine as saying this: the Hispanic voter has not shown a lot of willingness or affinity to support black candidates. Does that represent the view of your campaign?
No, he was making a historical statement, and obviously what we're trying to do is to bring America together so that everybody feels like they're involved and they have a stake in the future. This is a black-brown debate. We haven't actually talked a lot about black-brown issues. I regret that, and I think that we have a lot that we can do together. You know, Tavis Smiley's Covenant is a great way to start. There's a lot that we should be doing. I've worked with many of the Latino groups over many years. We've got to work on education and health care. The agenda for America is the agenda for African Americans and for Hispanics. And we need to merge that, and we need to have a political system where people feel like they can vote for anybody because we're all on the same page. We're all going to make progress together. But I wanted to follow up quickly on something.
Let me ask Senator Obama, do you believe there's a history of a division where Latino voters will not vote for a black candidate?
Not in Illinois. They all voted for me. And so, you know, if this is being asked in the context of my candidacy, one of the things that I know is that when Latino voters know of my commitment to them and the work that I've done for years, then they gravitate towards my candidacy. We were talking earlier about immigration reform, and I think that John and myself and Hillary may agree on the broad outlines of where we need to go. But 2 years ago, I stood with Ted Kennedy and John McCain and took on this tough issue, and have consistently been involved in making sure that we've got the kind of comprehensive plan that makes us a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. That's the kind of leadership that I've shown, and when Latino voters read or hear about that leadership, then they know that they're going to have an advocate, even if it's politically tough. And I think that's, you know, that's the real test of leadership. Not when it's easy, not when the things poll well, but how do you do when you've got a contentious issue like how we solve this immigration problem? That's an area where I've consistently stepped up.
Time is up. Email question, Natalie Morales.
And this one is to Senator Obama, and this comes to us from one of our co-sponsors of tonight's debate, the 100 Black Men of America. They ask, to what do you attribute the disproportionately high dropout of black males at every level in our educational process? And what would you do to stem the tide of black men exiting the educational system?
Well, I think it's similar to the reason that Latinos have such a high dropout rate. What you see consistently are children at a very early age are starting school already behind. And that's why I have said that I'm going to put billions of dollars into early childhood education that makes sure that our African-American youth, Latino youth, poor youth of every race are getting the kind of help that they need so that they know their numbers, their colors, their letters. Every dollar that we spend in early childhood education, we get $10 back in reduced dropout rates, improved reading scores. And that's the kind of commitment we have to make early on. We've got to improve